First and foremost, front and center is going to be traveler safety. If people don't feel safe, they're not going. If you're a corporation and you send somebody out and it's not safe and you could have, controlled it or given them more information, what's your liability? All those kinds of things. The experience at every airport's different right now. The experience at every airline's different right now. So on the backside of this thing, it's going to be consistency on how does it all work? What are the rules? Airline, hotel, car, mass transit, what can I expect? And it's really the TMC's job at the end of the day to pull all of that together. And if people don't feel safe, they're not going to move. So how do we get that into one place and get it out into the corporations and out to the consumers and those kinds of things? Hopefully we're going to have more standards. We need more standards. And so hopefully between some kind of government, involvement and or the associations and, airline associations, hotel associations and stuff, we're going to have to get to where people know what to expect. I think you're going to see more mandating of the use of the TMC. And I know that sounds like, oh, we want all the business. And of course we do. But the reality is when you let people, the rogue traveler, go do what they're doing, how do you know they're going to be getting the right information, not putting themselves in harm's way, all those kinds of things. And God forbid something happens, how do you know where they are immediately and those kinds of things? So I think given the time, there's going to be a lot of push on the backside by corporations to get things in one place with the TMC, in coordination. And if you ask me what's one of the things that keeps me up at night, it's the question you're asking now. How do we know how to bring the business back up on the backside? Because, people do think you just flip a switch. You don't. These are people that you put in place to help other people. And you have to know where demand is going to be to know how many people to bring back on and how to staff for all of it. So it's going to be hugely complex. We're going to have everything from customers that are ready to go and have a ton of pent-up demand to businesses that have been severely damaged by what's happened through the pandemic and the crisis, to travelers that don't want to go, to travelers that are dying to go. And we're going to have to try and figure out what that means on how often the phone might ring and how much they're going to need and how do we staff and those kinds of things. But the reality is we're sitting here saying, what's the talk time going to be like? You're not just calling to book an air, car, hotel. You're saying, is the airport open? What's it like when I get there? Will I get quarantined? How do I cross borders? All the things that we're talking about. And so in many ways, we will become journey managers. Well, how do you know how to staff for that? We don't know what the journey is going to take on the backside of this. So do we just flip a switch? No, we don't. Will we be ready? We'll be ready. I mean, we'll be ready to move fast. But it's going to be tricky if we're being honest. I mean, if we're all being honest with each other, and that's what it's going to take is an honest conversation, it's going to be tricky, and it's going to take a lot of coordination between us, our customers, and the suppliers, because the suppliers are just like us. They're going to have to know how many routes do I bring back? How many aircraft do I have active? Well, what's the demand going to be? Nobody knows, and so we're going to have to stay very coordinated. Back to that word, we're going to adjust. We're going to adjust to the new normal. We have no choice. We're going to have to figure out what demand does. We're going to figure out how to staff. That's going to be tricky. But one of the things you hear is, oh, travel won't all return because the world's going to be so different. And now we all know how to use Teams and Zoom and all this kind of stuff. I think most travel will come back. It always has. And I believe firmly that it will. If you think about the future, airlines are going to be smaller. Hotels are going to be smaller. TMCs are going to be smaller. And so we're going to have to take these businesses and build them back up over probably a 2 to 3 year period. That's kind of what's going to happen, I think, in the future.